I've heard, anyways, that this is that the end times are upon us, and and I'm sorry to disappoint a lot of you. And this is, and by the way, I don't know who is picking Eric Metaxas's uh, thumbnail images, but good on you. He looks fantastic. He doesn't look scared and like a raisin at all. Now, this is from his radio show, and he's talking about how bad will it get. He's on TBN, which is the I don't know, the Terrorism Broadcasting Network, whatever the fuck. And thank you. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So this is, he's going to tell us how bad will it get during the end time. They discuss the idea of free speech without consequences in America and observe trends through a biblical worldview. Do current events in America and Israel signal the end times? Well,
I don't know whether to be excited or completely filled with anxiety.
Well, I feel the same way looking at you. Also, what's with your lighting? It looks like you put a flashlight on a broomstick and duct taped it to the wall.
Because I don't know how bad it gets.
Oh my God. So Eric Metaxas is just trying to he's just dunking on you like a motherfucker. He's just showing how big and fancy his studio is. Now, in your defense, sir, with your flashlight duct taped to the wall, no one bothered to turn the rest of the lights on in the studio for Eric.
Before God says, okay, it's time. Everybody out of the pool. Let's go. Safety break. We're done.
What do you think COVID was, fuckhead? Clearly God was like, all right, you folks, we're going to have to do a reset. Just everybody go to your room. I'm shuffling some shit. You don't need to see this. When you come outside, things will look slightly different.
But I'm hoping that we're closer to that day than we might have thought we were previously.
Hi, if something's going to happen in the future, you're always closer to it. Like now. See, that's how time works. Fucking twit.
There's some dark stuff happening in the world.
Thank you. Thanks for noticing. I appreciate it. Hi there.
Today,
Something wrong with the world today. I don't know what it is. Hold on. Something's wrong with her eyes. Sorry, that's the closest I could get to to an Aerosmith ready overlay. I'll work on it.
Why don't we talk about what is going on? I try to avert my eyes sometimes from the news.
Yeah, sometimes you just try to turn but you can't not look, and then like Lot's wife,
because it's painful every now and
it is.
Again, Joe Biden.
To see that Trump lost and he's not going to be president again, even though you and those other assholes at Flashpoint predicted he would within 6 weeks.
His face pops up, so I try to avoid it. But
why? Because he scares you? That's faith. That's how you know something's really happening. Yeah.
What is happening right now with the IDF in Gaza? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, tell us about that from your garage, is it?
Well, and I don't know that I have any new layers of revelation, but I will.
Yeah, I mean, I've been flipping through the Bible, and I'm trying to find October 7th in there. And
I'll tell you, Eric, I spent last week out of the country.
Yes, Carlin. I saw the stuff with Sebastian Bach on Masked Singer, yeah.
And kind of away from the onslaught of the normal news cycle that I kind of live with all the time.
Yes, it's a burden. I understand.
And it was interesting to kind of begin to re-emerge back into American culture and news, because the idea that, even as we're going into the holidays and people are wanting to think about happier things and happier times, the truth.
That's not good for business. Not on That Kevin Show. If people start thinking about happier times and happier things, do you know how fucked you are? You can't let that happen. Fight back, That Kevin Show. Scare the living shit out of these folks.
The world is really a scary place right now.
Mm-hmm. Is it? Where you are? Real quick. In the history of humankind, at any given point, how many wars are going on? Like, find me a window of a year where there are less than 4. Less than 4. Massive wars. Like, the only reason we think there's times of relative peace is because World War I and World War II were so big.
And all you have to do is see the crises we're facing here at home. All you have to do is recognize.
Oh yeah, totally comparable to what, it's happening in Israel and Gaza. Absolutely. I mean, it's basically, America's basically Darfur right now. You know what I mean?
Recognize that you have college professors like the one on the campus of Wake Forest University who was surprised by the fact that she said some horribly anti-Semitic things and people took exception to her and she ended up resigning. It's like we...
Yeah, because nothing like that has ever happened. So, okay, let me... I've read the Bible, and I don't remember the resigning of university presidents being any of the signs of the end time. If it were, it might explain why you assholes think it's around the corner every goddamn day.
There's this phenomenon that I'm starting to see that is really... and it reminds me of my children, but it's we, especially in the U.S., we want to have the right to do whatever we want to do, say what we want to say, absolutely be as belligerent and as profane, as offensive as we can possibly be.
Oh, he's been watching. That's awfully nice. Subscribe, won't you? I'm thinking, are we at 60K yet? God damn it. Can somebody check? Because I'm sure we've hit it by now. As profane as I've been this last hour, you fucking twerp. Are we there yet? I think we are. Come on now.
By example, the group of people that marched through Manhattan on Sunday that said, kill the Jews, kill the Jews. They didn't say kill Israel. They didn't say kill Israelis. They said,
well, saying kill Israel is a weird
kill
sense.
the Jews. Hundreds, maybe thousands of them marching. I never thought I would see this on American soil with my own eyes in this
and yet
day and age. I mentioned this professor in Wake Forest. She
yeah, subscribe, everybody. Like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, help us out. Off we go.
She actually said that she kind of understood where Hamas was coming from, and that she doesn't know that maybe she herself would want to go into an open air concert and shoot people if she had been subjected to the same types of things as the Palestinians. Now she's breaking down the narrative because the Palestinians supposedly aren't the ones that are carrying out all the terror and torture. It was supposed to be the terrorists, right? Hamas, that's what we were told.
Yeah, but Hamas is the leadership of the Palestinians. Stop making distinctions without a difference. You know fucking well what she's saying. I'm not even supporting it, but you don't have to mischaracterize it to make it shit.
At the end of the day,
you're an asshole. Get on with it.
We, particularly in the West, particularly in America, we want to stamp our feet. We want to say we want to say what we want to say, and then we don't want to have any consequences for it.
What the fuck? So you're signing up for consequence culture? This asshole is describing the lead up to cancel culture on campuses everywhere. Like, what the hell?
Right. So when she gets encouraged to resign, she's like, well, the university threw me under the bus and I didn't, I'm tenured and I should be allowed to. Eric, we have lost our grip on sanity. And until
you two have, certainly.
We do. I don't think any of us are going to have a happy Thanksgiving.
That's right. Bring back cancel culture. Thanks, Kevin. Wow. Back to you in the studio, Eric Metaxas.
Or a Merry Christmas, if that's the world that we continue to want to see develop around us.
Yeah, you don't really want a Merry Christmas. You don't want a Merry Christmas, okay? You say you want a Merry Christmas, but you do not want a Merry Christmas.
Well, it is hard to believe...
that you're supporting cancel culture?
Frankly.
Is that his name? I didn't catch it. I thought it was Kevin McCullough.
I mean, a lot of what we've seen in the last few years is hard to believe.
Yeah, totally. I mean, on your network, yeah.
Let's be honest, that the world...
Yeah, totally.
The world we grew up in has changed very dramatically, very quickly, and it takes time. No,
it hasn't. Wait a minute. You're going to take Russia being an aggressor in the world, China being an aggressor in the world, the Israeli and Palestinians being in yet another broken ceasefire, exchange of atrocities, as it were. and you're going to act like that shit is new? Didn't you motherfuckers call Biden the second coming of Jimmy Carter, for shit's sake?
Time to process what you're seeing. I mean, when I heard that governors are putting COVID patients in nursing homes and that old people are dying, I said, whoa, that can't be right. That can't be.
They're putting COVID patients in old folks' homes, and it's the idea that the people who they're isolating people who had COVID, and this was in New York, I think.
Even my worst political enemy, Andrew Cuomo, or what,
Right.
they're not going to do that. Yeah, they did that.
Oh, no, they made the case that moving these folks out of the old folks home and not treating them there because there was no vaccine for it and there was no surefire treatment for it, quite frankly, that it was best to leave them there as opposed to moving them to some other facility. Whereas, indeed, if they had tested positive or had tested negative falsely, you move them in town and they catch it for real.
On and on and on.
Also, yes, the idea that someone on a biblical channel would be confused when God sends a plague, right, Greg?
We've been seeing things, the election fraud. Honestly, I'll never forget, waking up the next morning and go, wait a minute, Trump.
Wait a minute. I backed the loser. I might have to rethink the bullshit story I've been telling myself.
Was ahead. What's going on? And
you mean the part where they were counting the mail-in ballots, which were largely Democratic, because there was this big thing about going out in public during the pandemic that was an even political divide in the country? Stupid.
then you're told, no, we can't talk about it. Don't.
Yeah, you can talk about it. You can ask all the questions you want, but asserting that it was stolen became a problem.
Talk about it. On and on and on.
Yeah, exactly. You misread you can ask all the fucking questions you want, but you can't make statements and say I'm just asking questions, asshole. Yeah, right. Remember hanging chads? Yeah, we weren't even able to question that. I don't even remember questioning that.
Can't even
How dare you put a question mark after hanging chads?
ask questions about it.
Horrible things happen. And it is, I can understand how some people they don't want to go there. They don't want to deal with it, but it's good to deal with it, folks.
It is good to deal with it. It is. You're not dealing with it. You're just kind of denying it, which is literally the opposite of dealing with it.
It's good to see what is happening and to know,
that Trump lost for real and he was not reinstated like you guys prophesied he would.
to know what is really happening. What happened in Israel is one of those things. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You know, that's the way you look at it. It's one of those things.
You can't imagine that can happen.
Yes, you can. Jesus Christ, it's the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. What can't you imagine would happen?
But wait, it gets worse.
And also, why is this a crisis of imagination? Just because you're an unimaginative twerp does not mean the rest of us have that problem.
There are people in America.
That's true. All right. At least we have one fact in this show.
Chanting, kill the Jews.
Right. But did you get this upset in Charlottesville with the whole Jews will not replace us? Or the blood and soil chants? I don't remember you getting upset about that.
You think
same shit.
It's one thing for that to happen over there, but for people in America to think that it might be okay to talk about that after we've had decades of learning about the Holocaust. We've got a Holocaust museum, and we have
asked and answered, I thought. And then what do you know? Charlottesville, bunch of guys walking around yelling, "Jews will not replace us," and it's almost like it started to get a toehold.
Steven Spielberg makes Schindler's List, and we have
right that usually did it. Kind of how like they made Roots and it was on TV in the 70s, and then in Eritrea today there's slavery. It's weird.
All of these things, and that we're at a place in America where it is possible that people would do that. It's very hard to process, Kevin. It's just hard to process.
If I may, that's because you're dumb. I mean, these are complex issues, and part of processing it is recognizing that that processing them, especially on the fly, is an impossibility, and therefore you can cast it aside as something outside your intellectual responsibility because there are too many moving parts to even figure out where it's going to end up. And until it ends up in one particular place, you can't have an impact on it because it won't, in this country, it will affect who you vote for and why, in theory. Or it just frankly shouldn't. You guys have already made up your fucking mind. And I don't know, like, I come on the air every day trying to make sure that I ignite at least a little bit of humor and fire in people to guarantee that they're going to vote next time. That's my driving point. Vote.org. That's not theirs. They don't kind of give a shit if people vote or not. They're not committed to the democratic idea, period. They think it's antithetical to what they ultimately want to pull off, and they would rather have an electoral college run country. So, of course they're confused. Of course you get up every day and you're trying to figure out how to make sense of all this shit. I don't have to. I know exactly why I do what I do.
It is, but
Vote blue.
I also think that I always kind of see these things as tied to larger kind of amplification of biblical truths too.
Well, you'd have to, because if you don't have that arm on the side of the pool, what are you going to do? Swim on your own?
And we know, if you read, Paul's second letter to Timothy, that towards the end of it, he talks about how bad things are going to be at the end of time.
And yeah, they've never been bad before.
And that, part of what's going to happen is that men are going to delude themselves, are going to deceive themselves. Part of what's going to happen is.
Yeah, thank God. Like, I don't even remember a time when men would delude themselves. Has that ever even happened? God, I don't even know how to talk about not being able to process something.
That men were going to be lovers more of what they want than what is true.
And they'll elect some sort of like golden calf fatso god like Donald Trump, who is the patron saint of self-involved shittery.
Which ultimately is a rejection of God. If you're
right, yeah, I agree. Voting for Trump is a rejection of God. Please continue.
You're putting it into the framework of a worldview, and
yeah, which I think we should.
In seeing it kind of come to life around me, I don't know whether to be excited or completely filled with anxiety, because I don't know how bad it gets before God says, okay, it's time. Everybody out of the pool. Let's go. Safety break. We're done. But
I see. So this asshole is not interested in going through the tribulation part. He just wants to be raptured automatically. It is the essence of his entire faith is, if I can pretend to believe this stuff hard enough, I will be at the front of the line when God pulls everyone's ripcord. And they'll just yank me the fuck out of here so fast my clothes will be in a pile on the floor and I'll be naked in heaven holding a harp in seconds. That's it. That's his belief system. Because if he has to process it and go through the depth of life aspect of the tribulation, where people come to the idea that there's a possible salvation, which is an allegory for getting along, he's not interested at all.
I'm hoping that we're closer to that day than we might have thought we were previously. But in the meantime,
again, that's how time works.
My kids are 13, 10, and 8.
And so you just wake up every day and scare the fuck out of them?
I'm trying to help them make sense of the world around them.
Yes, and you're doing a terrible job. I could just trust that that's happening. If what you've said tonight is any indication, I weep for them.
And try to put into perspective the worldview that we hold in the McCullough family, and that's based on our theological understanding of God being in charge, and we're not.
The world sucks, and it's a cesspool of violence, degradation, and evil. But any day now, God's going to snap his fingers, and we're all going to be in the big nudie farm in the sky. Doesn't that sound nice? Why are they crying, Marge? Marge, why are they crying? Give them a juice box. I'm going back out to the shed. You're always on that computer out there. What are you doing? None of your goddamn business. And stop trying to look at my browser history. Taggity, taggity, tag. Squirt, squirt.
And it drives me bonkers.
Short trip.
When someone who is as privileged and has such a place of position as a professor at
a place of position. Very nice.
Wake Forest University can say, well, I think I'd be willing to blow up Jewish kids at a concert as well. And then so she says it. That's one thing. She says it out loud. She puts it on her Twitter. She makes that, and she's well.
By the way, I didn't see this reference, if anybody knows the direct one in this. But again, also, the point of somebody saying that is that if you were brainwashed in this, you'd probably come to the same conclusion. If your life was limited to these kind of options, that is the conclusion you would come to. You would feel differently about it. That's the point. That is why it's important that when we're in a democracy and we do have options, that we don't play in that sandbox.
I want to be raw and poetic and all the rest of it. Okay, you're raw and poetic, and we raw and poetically understand that you are a jerk who wants to see nothing wrong with assassinating innocent people. We get it. I just don't think that we're ready at this point in society to say, yes, you can say whatever you want and you can put it out there, but you're going to get a pass on all of it all the time. And I hope that we're not at that point.
Jesus Christ. What do you think Elon Musk bought shitter for?
I hope that we're not at the point where we say it's just a free-for-all no matter what the moral component is.
Well,
you do realize who you're talking to, right?
to me, one of the takeaways of that is, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any idea
what these two assholes are talking about?
Idiots are professors at colleges in America? Do you?
Well, for the record, those women were all former professors. They're all the presidents of the college. They don't teach at the college. They have an oversight position as the president of the university. But they're not exactly indicative of the entire thought form at the school. The idea is that you have somebody there who's, that much of a reed that can bend in the wind. They're going to give more flexibility to a bunch of people.
Do you have any idea?
In theory.
These are professors.
No, they were the presidents they were former professors
At prestigious colleges. And they are absolute idiots is a very kind word for people who can think those thoughts, verbalize those thoughts publicly. Utterly astonishing. These people are professors teaching your kids. You might want to think about whether you want to send your kids to these schools.
Also, they are technically your children still their whole lives, but they're not your kids. These are college age adults.
Even if it were free, I think I would skip it.
I don't.
Look, dude, you don't need to tell any of us that if higher education was an option, you'd skip it. We get it. This is just another sort of like stake in the heart of education that these guys are always pushing for. It's just another version of it. That, yeah, they're 18 to 22-year-olds plus. Yeah, and exactly. Both of these idiots said nothing about the Charlottesville chanters saying Jews will not replace us.